I had this pocket knife. My son Hayden got it for me a few years ago. And man, I can't get it sharp. I couldn't. I tried everything I could to get it sharp. I'm just not a good knife sharpener. And so last week was really, really uncomfortable to hand it away and know that I wasn't going to see it. And I'm not going to lie, if you've ever carried a pocket knife for like years, and then all of a sudden you don't have it, you have no idea how uncomfortable that is when you reach in your pocket. Because the first thing that pops in your head is, where'd my pocket knife go? Oh yeah, I gave it out. Now how am I going to get this thing open? And listen, handing it to him right before Christmas, when the dad's ultimate move all day Christmas is to go, oh here, I got you. Be careful, don't cut yourself. I got this stuff. I didn't have that. I'm asking my kids, who are just trying to battle through things, right, to get things open. And as I was thinking about this today, it actually, he handed it back to me, and I was thinking about how that had to change, right? And in order to change, there had to be a certain amount of friction, right? The change in my life occurred by handing him, it was pretty uncomfortable to hand him a pocket knife and go, please bring this back, don't lose it, right? It's more than just a pocket knife. It was a gift from my kid. It's something that I've carried. It's become an extension of me to be able just to hand it to another human and go, please take care of this, right? It's like the first time you drop your child off at a babysitter. And I realize that's an entirely different feeling, but at the same time, it is a change, and it's an uncomfortable thing, right? Nobody wants to do that. It's the first time you let your kid spend the night at somebody else's house. But it's necessary for growth, right? I'm going to start out, I'm going to do this backwards, and I apologize, Sarah, because I gave you the scripture backwards. It's every time Sarah has to come find me, what's the scripture today, and every time I mess it up somehow. I either give her the wrong scripture, or I give it to her backwards. Today I gave it back to her backwards. But I'm going to start out Proverbs 18:21. The tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences. And what that's saying is that our words, the things that we say about someone or to someone or about ourselves, make a difference. And they can change the outcome in somebody's life. And you don't realize how important that is. You have no idea what it truly means and what a change it can make in your life. One of the things that we studied about in some of my conferences was the impact that it has on you to wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and tell yourself a few good things about yourself every single morning first thing. The positive change that makes in you because you have spoken life into yourself. The same thing happens if I'm talking to Mindy or I'm talking to Greg or I'm talking to whoever, my children, or about me, right? I can change even if they're not there to hear it. It changes. It changes people's perception of me, right? When you walk into a room and somebody's talking, I don't know, maybe they're talking about Titus, right? And you walk into the room and everybody's going, did you see what Titus was doing? He was over here doing this, and that was really poor, and that was bad judgment, and that he really messed up. And all of a sudden it's in my head now. Now I'm going to go to Titus, and my direct contact with Titus is going to be different than what it would have been had I not had that planted in my head. Right now I'm looking at Titus and I'm going, is he going to mess this up? What am I, like, can I trust him? Can I let him, right? If somebody would have came to me ahead of Greg taking my knife and said, man, I gave Greg my pocket knife and he lost it. And this person over here gave it to him and he took a big chunk out of it. I never gave Greg my pocket knife. But because I trust Greg, because the things that I've heard about Greg are out of honesty and out of pureness, I trusted Greg with my knife. It was uncomfortable, but I trusted him. Right? So the things that we say, words that come out of our mouth can have positive or negative impact. And I want you to know that holds true in Life Church. I'm going to hold my hand up because I'm guilty of this. I have heard myself say, Life Church is dying. I have heard other people in this room say, Life Church is dying. We don't have anybody in the pews, right? There's no bodies there. We don't have the people that we need in the building to do the things that we want to do, and that spreads. It's like an infectious disease, and now all of a sudden we're looking at a dying church. We're looking at a church that is just having to downsize in the room, and the negativity that is really right. We've created an atmosphere of negativity. I want you, everybody that got an egg carton, I want you to think about that egg carton as a person. Right? I want you to think about that egg carton as somebody that is sitting beside you in the pew that isn't there right now. Somebody that left, maybe somebody that you invited that isn't there, maybe whatever. It's a person. If any of you guys ever listened to, I know the younger crowd has. How many of you have heard the song Church Clap? Right? Okay. Church Clap has a line in it, and it says, a church can be full of members, but empty in conversions. Full of members, but empty in conversions. That means we could pack this house. All those egg cartons I gave you could be extra bodies. But it does not matter if they are only here to check a box. It doesn't matter if we didn't make a change in them. None of that matters. Those empty pews would not matter if there was 1,000 people in this room, if none of them got what was being said. If none of them got into their Bible. If none of them had that conversion. Right? They're just empty vessels. And until we fill them with Jesus, until they allow that into their soul, it doesn't matter. We can pack this house, but it's not going to make a difference if we're not converting. It's not going to make a difference if we don't make a change in their lives. And so I got to thinking about it. All these churches, how many of you guys have ever been to another church that was just full of like 80 and 90-year-old members? Right? And that's all that was there. There was no new life. And those members had been going there for 30 years. And they had a bank account that was stacked. But what good are they doing if they're not getting new members in? What good are they doing if they're not taking that money? They're just being themselves and going home. And I'm not knocking that. Everybody needs a place to go. And if that's the church that they want to call home, I am more than happy. But the conversions aren't happening there. And I want you guys to know, I personally have had something happen to me in the last year because of Life Church, because of Set Free, because of the Women's House that changed me. And I'd like to think that at least one or two of you out there have had the same. The girls in the house, the lady living next door. I know that Life Church and the 180 House and Set Free Ministries has had a positive impact on your life. Guys, we're not a dying church. We are a changing church. Take that word out of your vocabulary. Get rid of it. Get rid of the negativity that comes in with coming in and seeing the empty chairs, and look at it as opportunity to fill them with conversions. Every time we get a new lady in the 180 House, that's one more person that we have an opportunity to change. To give them a blessing in their life that can never leave. To change them forever. It's uncomfortable. I can assure you, coming in off of the street or out of another home or whatever, and saying, I am willing to give up my own bedtime. I'm willing to give up the things that I like and enjoy. I'm willing to give up the people that I know. Some of us are willing to give up the people that we love in order to come in and make a change. And that change is happening in the basement right here. That change is happening because the ones that are still here were willing to get uncomfortable to see that through. I can assure you it was not comfortable on me. I can assure you Mindy took heat for that. Mindy stepping up into the lead pastoralship took heat. These were changes. They weren't comfortable. We go looking through biblical history, and we can look at the changes that happened that were incredible changes, and they all came with a discomfort. They all came with something that it took to make that change in them, and it was saw in a negative light. And until it was seen otherwise, it didn't change. The mentality didn't change. This is horrible. Why do I hurt? Why am I going through these things? Why? Why? Because we need to change. And Life Church is changing. It's not dying. It is changing. And it's changing for the better. The things that I have seen take place here, I can tell you right now, the day Mindy came to me and Amber and said, "Hey, can I take you downstairs? I want to show you something." And she takes us downstairs, and in my head, all I can think about is, oh gosh, what did Siegfried do? Like, what did we break, or what did we mess up, or what did we leave dirty, or what did... And she takes me downstairs, and this vision comes out, right? And now the crazy thing is that vision I heard in her voice, in that conversation, the same exact tenacity, in the same empowering voice that I heard in myself whenever I started talking about starting Set-Free Ministry. She came at me with this belief. I want to do this. I think we can do this. And the only thing I could think is, oh gosh, Mindy, what's everybody at church going to think? Well, we had to go through that uncomfortable change. It was necessary. Deuteronomy 8:2 and 3. Be careful. 2. Remember how the Lord your God led you through the wilderness for these 40 years, humbling you and testing you to prove your character, and to find out whether or not you would obey His commands. Yes, He humbled you by letting you go hungry, and then feeding you with the manna, a food previously unknown to you and your ancestors. He did it to teach you that people do not live by bread alone. Rather, we live by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. You see, the Israelites had gone into Egypt and were accepted. They were given land. They were given fertile land at that. And then this change happened, right? They get a new Pharaoh, and he wants to push them out. He gets tired of them. He sees their growth and sees their numbers, and he gets scared, so scared, in fact, that he orders that every male child born of an Israelite should be killed. So Moses steps in, and he leads them out and leads them for God, and he leads them into the wilderness, right? We go through the Red Sea. We get into the wilderness. We go to this bitter water. We do all of these things, and every single one of them were uncomfortable. And in every single one of them, God gave them what they needed to survive and thrive. He sent food from the sky that nobody had ever seen before. He gave them water when they were thirsty. But every single time, so much so that the Israelites wanted to go back to where they were being enslaved, because it was more comfortable to know that this person is going to feed me, they're going to give me enough rations that I'm going to survive, than to have to rely on God to provide what they need. Even though every single time God was providing. God had them go through that change so that they would have no choice but to rely on Him. As a church, we have to rely on Jesus and quit with the negativity. Quit talking negativity and speaking death into this church. It's not dying. It's changing. I see new faces out there that weren't here this time last year. I see faces that this time last year probably had no intention of going to church. We're not dying, we're changing. That change is uncomfortable. It hurts a little bit. It hurts to see people leave, and it's upsetting. There's a lot of people that have left over the last year and a half that I would love to see back here. But there's a reason they left. Because they weren't comfortable with the change. They weren't comfortable. And not being comfortable is part of change. It took a little friction to get my knife sharp. Greg said, man, that thing was really hard to get sharpened. That steel was hard. Right? How many of us are hard? I don't want to change. I don't want to deal with change. I would get up here and preach the exact same sermon every single Sunday. You know how many times I have to get uncomfortable and come up here and give a message? I have given messages before, luckily not on this stage, but I have given messages before to set free that I knew for a fact when I gave the message I would have people walk out and never come back. And I did. It was uncomfortable. I gave a message on forgiveness one time. That the moment before I get up and I'm going to stand on stage and talk about how important forgiveness was and how we all had to forgive the people that trespassed against us because the Bible told us to, I had a guy walk in the back door of Set Free whose daughter was murdered. How am I supposed to stand up on that stage and tell this man he needs to forgive the guy that murdered his daughter? How am I supposed to do that? You want to talk about uncomfortable? I've had God tell me before, hey, you need to change your message in the last moments before I was going to give it. Never on my way up to the stage. And all I could think in my head was, I got to die. What am I don't know how to do this. Like, you got to, this is on you. Because I'm going to mess this up. After I was done giving this message on how important it was to forgive those that trespassed against us, I go over and I sit next to this man and I'm expecting to get it. You're telling me I got to forgive this guy? He put his hand on my shoulder and he said, I couldn't have said that better myself. The uncomfortable, the fear of getting up there and giving that message. But that message was what was meant to be heard. I make it a point that almost every time I get on stage that I give you one of my own failures. Whatever it is, how minor it was. I think it's the last time I preached, I'm talking about throwing a bag of peppers at Liam. Right? Like, I give you my failures because I never want you to think that I get up here and that I am somehow better than you, that I somehow have it all together, that I somehow, I'm just a guy, and I get uncomfortable. But being uncomfortable means we are changing. The words that leave your mouth are going to determine the outcome of that change. I urge each and every one of you guys to dig deep, to really think about the things that you say, not just about Life Church, but about other people. Make that change internally. Try to talk good about it. Man, I I do it. I catch myself all the time doing it. Man, it's really easy to see the flaws in somebody. Really easy. It's really easy to see the flaws in ourselves. It's easy to see the flaws in the church that you attend. And the deeper in that church you go, the more you pour into that church, the more you know the people that work and make that church happen, the easier it is to find the flaws in what's going on there. It's easy to look at your pastor. It's easy to look at the leadership and go, they're great. I'm here on Sunday. They're doing a good job. It's warm in every day. It's great. But then whenever you're like, man, I want to step up, I want to do a little more, right? And now I'm going to get to know Mindy. I'm going to get to know Tim. I'm going to get to see their flaws. Not that you have any. I'm going to see the flaws, their humanity. And then I'm going to start. Man, I can't believe Mitch said that. I can't believe he interacted that way. I can't believe Mitch said that. And all of a sudden it starts spreading like a disease through the seats. And that's all we know is the negativity that's happening under the curtains or behind the curtains. We see the flaws in each other. And that is fun to talk about. Why is that fun to talk about? I don't know. I guess it has something to do with the mental psyche. If I can break them down, then I feel better about myself. I don't know. But it happens all the time. I heard the pastor talking about, and Titus, you guys came to mind on this, because I heard your dad talking one time. And he was talking about how the church in general, the church as a whole, was dying. He said, it's not dying. It's changing. People want real. So instead of going to a church every single Sunday and listening to this pastor get up on stage and talk the same, I love you, God is good, God is great message, I'm going to search it out. I'm going to go to a home church somewhere. I'm going to seek people that are willing to sharpen me. Iron sharpens iron, right? I'm going to seek these people that are willing to be honest with me and tell me my flaws and make sure that I fix myself. The church is not dying. The church is changing. And if you look at history, that's where the church started out. The church started out in a home somewhere. I would love to see you guys here every single Sunday. But you know what? If you're somewhere studying God with a group of individuals in a house, in a barn. How many of y'all ever heard about the chicken barn? Anybody ever heard about the chicken barn? I have a buddy who lives in Mountain Grove, and he wanted to start a Bible study. He was like, I don't really want to do this in a house. Let's do it in a chicken barn. It was a huge chicken barn. So they pour a concrete pad that's got ripples in it big enough to stub your toe on in the floor of this chicken house, dust everywhere. And every single week, like 30 guys gather around and have a Bible study in a chicken barn. And we're worried because we got to move out of here into the back end of the sanctuary. It's a necessary change. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to go back there. I don't think Mindy really wants to go back there. But we need to go back there. We need that change. For one, it's going to help the utility bill. But for two, it's a change in us that gets us out of the normal. That's what happens. We all sit in the same pew. How many of y'all are sitting, short of Greg and Lisa, I think they actually moved this week. How many of y'all, yeah, that was her fault. How many of y'all are sitting in the exact same, at least pew, that you were last week? And if not, I guarantee you're probably sitting on the same side that you were last week. And how many of you, the second you walk in, you're like, I gotta get my pew, and you come in and you set your stuff down in the pew, right? Because it's uncomfortable just to change pews, let alone change parts of the building. But sometimes that change of changing a pew might introduce you to somebody new. It might make somebody else feel more comfortable. You ever noticed? Nobody sits in the front 2 rows. Anybody ever heard of back row Baptist? They all want back there. Far away, right? I don't want to get called out. I don't want to be told what I'm doing wrong. So I'm going to sit far back so Pastor can't see me. Right? Sister Susie's got a flaw and she don't want it called out in church. I told Sarah today I may never get invited to preach up here again after calling the entire church out for speaking death into itself. I'm here to sharpen you, not to coddle you. I'm here to make sure that you're going through the week and that you're doing as good as you can do. I'm at least trying to give you the tools so that you can do that. If I don't get you uncomfortable, if I don't make you at the end of a message go, oh, I don't need to be up here. Every single week I get up here and every single week I give a message and every single week you go home and you go, oh, that was good. And somebody says, what did the preacher preach about? And you go, yeah, I don't know. Jesus. What did I do? Now, if you leave here and somebody says, what did the preacher talk about? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure the preacher talked about me. I did my job. The most important messages that we can give one another are those that make each other uncomfortable. And unfortunately, that means people leave the church. Unfortunately, that means we lose friends. I have lost more friends, way more friends, over ministry than I have gained. I sure have. I've heard way more people that were talking bad about me because of ministry than I have any other aspect of my life. Because they didn't like what I had to say when I got up behind the pulpit. Because it made them uncomfortable. My own flesh and blood family member has texted me and told me I was going to hell for something that I taught. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I get up here every week, or every time I get up here, and I try to make people think. I don't want you to be comfortable. I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm here to talk to you about God and about how to make yourself better. And I can't get you better if you don't go through a little change. So for the next few months, 6 months, a year, I don't know, however long we're back there in the back, I don't want to hear, and we're dying. I want to hear, man, we are changing and it is good. We have new conversions. Listen, you can go to churches that have populations in-house of 2,000 people. To get to a 5%, they're going to have out of 2,000, what is it, 100? Is that right? They're going to have 100, because 10% would be 200. They're going to have 100 conversions sitting in their pews. I bet you they don't have it. But out of however many people are in this room today, I know of at least, I'm looking around the room, I'm taking a wild stab at this, but 3 that have had a changing life moment because of Life Church, Set Free Ministries, the 180 House. And I want you guys to know all those Set Free Ministries is separate from Life Church. We are directly linked. We are changing lives, and we are doing it in this building. I'm just going to be honest with you. It is a symbiotic relationship like no other. Find another church somewhere that has a completely separate ministry within its walls. You won't find it. You're going to find churches that start ministries and keep those ministries within those walls to affect the people that they have coming there. But you're not going to find a church that has a ministry that affects completely outside of their normal. I can tell you it was uncomfortable Tanner and Mitch, Mindy, at that time Cody Freeman. I guarantee you it was an uncomfortable thing to say, let's take the drug church and let's let them come in our building. Let's let this group of people with tattoos on their face, with felony records, and let's let them come in and use our equipment every single week and just hope. Think that was easy? I guarantee you it wasn't. I was there for some of those conversations. It was not an easy change. It was not easy to do. I would like to think now, hindsight 2020, that Mindy and Tanner and Mitch and Sarah and even Cody and the other people that were involved in that decision to allow that to happen, look at that and go, man, that was a necessary change, and I'm glad we made it. .180 house, same thing. I would have never, ever broached the subject with Life Church to put that in the basement of Life Church. I would have never done that. Maybe out of fear, but also out of knowing what repercussions from that could have been. I wouldn't have wanted to put the church through that. I wouldn't have wanted to put Mindy through that. But Mindy came to me and she talked to me about it. And I think because it's changing lives. And it's uncomfortable. The things I heard. Every time I do something new in ministry, the amount of people that come to me and tell me it's going to fail miserably is astronomical. But let me tell you, if I change one person because of a choice that I made in ministry, it was worth whatever the repercussion was. That one life, that one soul that was going to make it to heaven. So, in the upcoming week, I want everybody to get a little uncomfortable. I want you to go out, I want you to talk. I say this every single time. The most important thing you can do is talk. Tell people what Jesus did for you. Tell people what Jesus is doing in your church. Not that your church is dying, but that your church is changing and making some incredible progress. It's absolutely incredible. And if you can't look in and see that, then you aren't involved enough. If you can't see the change, the positive changes that are coming out of what Life Church is allowed to do, then you need to get more involved so that you can. Get a little uncomfortable. Get a little bit uncomfortable. I love you guys. Every single one of you. I don't think for one moment that I can look around this room and say that anybody in here is perfect. You're flawed. You got an issue. We all got a little issue, right? We're all a little bit crazy. You've got an issue. I've got an issue. My children can point them out better than anybody I know. No, Kelly. No. Listen. Those flaws make us human. And because we're human, we need God. And everybody else that we speak to needs God in their life. And sometimes you are the last person that can talk to them about that. Get a little uncomfortable. Put yourself out there. Tell them your testimony. I have a girl I know who is very, very tattooed. Tattoos on her face, tattoos on her neck. She did all that at a rough time in her life. And she regrets every single one of those. And I don't know how many times I've heard her say, I wish I could get them all removed. I wish I could afford it, but I'm afraid it would scar me. I'm afraid of this. And she says she goes into church, and then I've tried, but she's never been to Life Church. But she said every church she goes to, she walks through the door, she sits down, and she said, I see all the perfect women in that church, and I feel like they're all looking at me. And I said, that's the problem. You're looking at them like they're perfect. The flaws that you see in yourself, those tattoos, are going to give you the ability to speak to somebody that wouldn't listen to me. I'm going to walk up to somebody with tattoos all over their face, even me. I'm going to walk up to them and they're going to look at me like, what do you know about me? You don't know anything about my life. She's going to walk up to them and they're like, wow, I got this right. She has a testimony that I don't have. You have a testimony I don't have. I don't know all of your testimony, but I guarantee you have a testimony, even if it's a boring one. You have one that somebody needs to hear, and it's going to help somebody lead somebody to Christ. Because they hear and they go, I can relate to that. I understand. That's something I went through too. But it's uncomfortable. We want to see change. We want to see growth within the church. Get uncomfortable. That's the whole point of this message. Get uncomfortable. If not, we are going to die.